All right, I believe I am live. I'm popping on here a couple of minutes early just to make sure we are good to go because y'all know how technology can be sometimes, especially lately. So I'll give a few minutes for people to start trickling in here. And my intention is not to keep you for too long. And shout out to those who are going to be catching the replay. So if you're watching the replay, make sure you post hashtag replay in the comments, whether you're here joining me live on Facebook joining me on Facebook or on YouTube. So one of the things, and this is on my business page. So I have my ujawajett.com on YouTube and on my Facebook business page. So you'll be able to find me there, and you can also connect with me on Instagram. I have my personal Instagram, which is Ujo Wadjet, and then my podcast Instagram, which is Fit Body, Fit Spirit. And you can find me on all of those platforms. So for those of you that don't know much about me, I am an intuitive wellness coach. I'm a personal trainer. I am a tarot reader, energy healer, and my main focus with all of those things is to align the mind, the body, and the spirit through health, through wellness, and through spiritual practice. So I align all of those things. And let's see, last month I started a podcast. So as I mentioned, that's Fit Body, Fit Spirit. And you can subscribe to that podcast on all the main platforms. You can also find that podcast embedded on my website, as well as the link is also on my podcast Instagram, which again is Fit Body Fit Spirit at Fit Body Fit Spirit on Instagram. So you will be seeing more live streams and things like that, as I mentioned, talking about certain topics. And today we're going to be focusing on analysis of the soul self. And one of the reasons why we have people trickling in here. Hey, Sanicia. Hey, Jason. What is up? Oh, you're on this side. Cool. Awesome. Hey, Anita. So we are talking about this. This topic came to my spirit to talk about because in a few days, we are going to be transitioning into summer. It's going to be the summer solstice on the northern hemisphere, and of course, if you're on the other side, then you'll be experiencing winter solstice. So one of the things I first want to know, and you can let me know in the comments whether you're watching live now or if you're in the replay, is how do you typically feel about summer? Like, is it your favorite season? Is it something you look forward to? Do you hate the heat? Like, what is your current feeling or, your thoughts about summer? Let me know in the comments. And I'll share with you mine. So one of the things with summer is, of course, I'm a late summer baby. So I'm all about the late summer. But usually the beginning part of summer, I'm okay with. The middle part of summer, I'm like, we're doing too much with this heat. And then towards the end, I feel like the weather is perfect. And just when the weather is perfect, it's time for it to end. But I think I might be biased because I'm a September Virgo. I don't know. You all let me know. But that's how I feel about it, like physically. Let's see. I do feel like it is, when you think about heat, I think of like a release of toxins. I think of like, you know, summertime is the sauna of the seasons, right? And so it's like it gets hot. So a lot of sweating, a lot of release. You're in New Orleans. Oh yeah, oh my gosh. I will get to New Orleans one of these days. And when I get there, I'm going to let you know because we have to meet in person. We have to. Anita, summer means vacation time, hot days, and ice cream. That sounds awesome. Hey, Nikkei, what's going on? Welcome. Virgos all the way. Yes, 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 yes. Houston is hot. Oh my gosh, I can imagine. Not trying to be in Houston in the summertime. Louisiana, it's still very hot in September. That's good to know. That is good to know. Virgos rule. Yes, we do. We absolutely do. Definitely. Yes, we will definitely link up. You love New Orleans. Good. And I've seen images, pictures of you. Hey, make sure you all check out Kay's. She's an author. She has 2 amazing books. Definitely check her out. And I have both of them. So check her out. She's an amazing author. Okay, so we're all talking about just our feelings of summer. It's hot. There's travel. We're talking about enjoying that time. This is a time of, so not just about releasing the toxins and sweating, right, through that heat, but also releasing your normal routine, right? So summertime is usually vacation time for people. So you're not in the house as much, or you're not at work as much. Sequoia saying summer means being outside more. Perfect. So yeah, you're not in that same routine. You want to be more active, enjoying nature and hiking. Love that. Yeah. Oh, thanks for love. You're welcome. Yeah, please post your website and links to your books, and I'll share it here. So I want you to think about that as we go into this topic of analysis of the soul self. See, one of the things with summertime is it's very physical. It's very, we think of things as happening, and by physical, I mean like earthly realm physical, like everything is very 3D. We're focusing a lot on that. And what I've noticed over the years, and this is just with interacting with people, these are through my own experiences and working with my clients, that we get so focused on being in the physical realm, being in the physical, in the 3D, in our physical bodies, because we're experiencing this heat, or because we're outside being active, that sometimes that soul self, we're not prioritizing that as much. We're paying less attention to the soul, right? And it's interesting because, summer is about the sun, and sun is soul, and we're talking about the soul, right? And this should be a time where, and I'm not saying to not focus on the physical body, because it's the perfect time to do that, or what's going on in the 3D, but it's also about using this time, especially with this particular summer solstice. Let's focus on what's happening within your soul, right? And how that interacts with the sun. So we're talking about the SOUL soul and the SOL. Yes, both souls we're talking about here, and the interaction of those two things. Do you feel like, and you can let me know this in the comments, do you feel as if you are flowing with nature, or do you feel like there is a resistance there. What's your current state of being right now? I want you to tap into that right now, because as I mentioned in the last live stream I did, which was like a couple of weeks ago, right, and kind of owning your personal power and kind of tapping into that, the first step here is knowing where you are, having some type of awareness of what you currently feel like. And it's okay. There's no wrong way. There's no wrong or right way. You can be flowing with nature right now. You can be resisting with nature right now. And, you know, I see in a lot of, you know, a lot of people do videos, you know, with astrology or different things that's going on with, you know, in the world. But I view us, you have to, one of the things I like to honor is the fact that we are all here as humans in 3D form right now, as humans. And I say that very loosely. But we all come from different places. And we are all on different timelines. So I'm not just talking about, you know, we're in this timeline, and I'm not talking about, you know, time zones, right? We might be in different time zones. We have the timelines and time zones that we're in here now, but then energetically, spiritually, etherically, we're on different timelines and different states of being. So you might always feel like you're resisting during summertime, and that's okay. That just might be what's going on for you in those seasons. And it might be that might be part of your cycle, which is fine. So there's no right or wrong way. It's just about having an awareness of what's coming up. Now, if you are resisting, now if you're flowing, we have some people here saying definitely flowing, good. I'm working on flowing with nature. I'm aware I was going against the flow. Yeah, so sometimes, just like Anita here was mentioning, sometimes. Now, first, we talked about having an awareness of where you currently are at. The next part is does that feel true right now? Does that feel like where you're supposed to be? So Anita here mentioned that she's working on flowing with nature, but she had an awareness that she was going against the flow. So a lot of times when it comes to a transition in nature, this is also a time for you to have an awareness or acknowledge any transition that is going on with you, spiritually, energetically, etherically. And this will also show up in the physical realm. So George is saying, okay, flowing, good. I feel like nature and I have truly been one because everything is seriously flowing so smooth and fluently for me. That is amazing. And here's the thing, right? Once you get to a point where you are in tune with nature, at least for me, I view nature as a clock. I view the seasons as a giant clock. That's the time that I view things at, right? And I pay attention to what nature is doing, and I'm like, am I in alignment with that? Is this something that I should be in alignment with? Not the things that go on with in how we celebrate nature, because that's different, or certain aspects of nature. So for example, like in the winter time, we do there's a lot of celebrations that happen in the winter. And this is something I used to absolutely be a part of, going to all these parties, going to all these holiday events and all this stuff in the wintertime. But as I became more spiritually aware, more spiritually conscious, as I became more intuitively aligned with my truth and with my environment, it started to not feel right anymore. And there's a key point there, because I mentioned before, you might be resisting, and that might feel right for you. That just might be where you are, and you can honor that. That's fine. But you might have a shift somewhere down the line to where things start to change and it does not start to feel right anymore. And this is what I want you to acknowledge. I want you to take a magnifying glass and really examine what's going on with you internally right now, as especially over the past this week and next week. I view these 2 weeks, going into this week, what is it, Thursday? So over the next 10 days, I would say really pay attention to how you're feeling. Is the routine or the habits or the things you've been feeling, are you starting to feel a bit irritable, like you're feeling like something isn't sitting well with you anymore? That's what was happening for me. The first time that happened for me was during the winter time, and I'll talk more about that experience probably when we transition into winter. But this can happen at every season, and this happened for me in spring. The first time it happened was in winter, then the second time in the spring. And for the summer, it's like, okay, we have to look at if you're starting to feel that unsettling feeling, then this is a sign for you. This is your soul self signaling you to pay attention. Let me look at some of these comments. Hey, Lyric. Definitely not synchronized with nature. And see, and it's okay to not be synchronized with nature. This is why when it comes to have an analysis is not about judgment. Write that down. Post it in the comments or say it out loud to yourself. Analysis is not judging. I never come from a place of judgment, right? And in these conversations, it's all about looking at it. We're just assessing. It might feel, if you feel that something is negative, you can view that as negative, but also look at the positive. Look at both ends. It's just a situation versus a wrong or a right. So I want you to really honor that wherever you're at right now. Honor that and just know that it's not good or bad. It's just what it is right now. It's just your current state, your current feeling. So Central Lee said that he's not feeling synchronized with nature. Central Lee, I would love to know does that feel true for you right now? Does it feel like do you feel grounded in that, or are you feeling unsettled? And that's for anybody here. Let me know if you are the state that you're currently in, whether you're in a flowing state or if you're not feeling synchronized. Do you feel grounded and settled in that, or do you feel unsettled and you're feeling uneasy, or you're feeling anxious? Let me know. Buddha says observing life within nature. Absolutely. And here's the thing, when it comes to observing life within nature, view life observe first within the self, within your natural self, within your natural state, and that's what we are analyzing right now. And then you look at how, then from that, you can see nature in a totally different way. And I challenge you all to do that over the next 10 days. So one of the things that I've been doing lately is I've just been going for walks in the morning. Before I go on a walk, I first tune into myself, like, okay, what am I reflecting inwardly right now? Like, what is going on here? And then what needs to be expressed externally, and how will that reflect in what I see? Nature will respond to that. So, and you can change that. So if you're not liking what you are seeing within your environment, then you have to look within yourself, within your soul self, to see what needs to be rearranged, what needs to be adjusted, what needs to be removed or released. Analysis is not like judgment. Damn right. Thank you, Sinicia. Okay, centrally is saying uneasy. So if you're currently feeling uneasy, then that is a sign that something is ready to be released, something is ready to shift. And this is a great time because nature's in transition. So any type of changes that need to happen, now is a time for that thing to be released. I almost think of it as, I don't know why this is coming up, but on when they do the pick four in the lottery, and it's like that little machine where the balls are in there, and then it pops up to the top. So it's like you have all these different, or even in the bingo machine, and you have all the little bingo things in there. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Do I sound crazy? What is that thing called? The little bingo things, and they call out the bingo thing, but so you have all these emotions, right? All the bingo things are all those balls that are in the lottery pick four. They're just scrambling around in there, and then at some point one gets picked. One is ready. One is ready to be selected, and that's what's happening with whatever that uneasy thing is. It's ready to be. Sadicia, no, you know what I'm talking about. Good, I'm not crazy. Hey, Chris, welcome. A ball picker, yes. The ball picker. So, yeah, that thing you're picking up. I'm picking up what you're laying down. Just don't know the name of the machine. Yes, that thing, right? So this is happening energetically, and you can optimize moving into summer solstice. Just like with any season, you can optimize that transition. So anything that's coming up, that uneasy feeling that you're feeling centrally, that is a time to really, now you can look at it. Now it's actually ready. That might have been something that's been simmering for a while, and now it's ready to be released, or it's ready to be acknowledged. And I feel like I should touch on that, right? So there is we have different stages. So when we're talking about analysis of the soul self, let's look at the stages of what needs to happen once you have that state of awareness, right? Because we're not coming from a place of judgment, right? We're just looking at what is actually happening. If you view that as negative, or if it feels, I like to view it as like the vibration. Does it feel low vibrational or high vibrational? And with that, if, like centrally mentioned, he's feeling uneasy. If you're feeling uneasy right now, then whatever is showing up, you first need to look at, am I ready to acknowledge this? So as you are assessing, as you are taking that magnifying glass inward and really looking at what is going on with how I'm feeling, what is my current state, which we already talked about. Now you're going to go into, is the state that I'm in, does that feel true to me? That's the second part. Does it feel true? Do I feel grounded in this? If not, now you're looking at, am I ready to acknowledge this? So that's the next part. Are you ready to acknowledge it? Okay. Am I back? The internet, this has been happening lately, by the way. My live cut out. I don't know what happened on your end, but as soon as I said great, my internet just stopped. And I have seen that on other people's live streams over the past couple days where they are live and all of a sudden it just stops. So you know what? And that's a sign right there. That's a sign right there. Something's going on with when it comes to technology, like I mentioned at the top of this video. And this is why this conversation about analysis of the soul self, and this transition into summer solstice is so important. Let me know if y'all can hear me. Let me know if y'all can see me. Let me see. Let me see. Wait, let me come back up here. Were y'all still on? Okay, I can see. I can see things. There we go. Mercury retrograde. Yes. Oh my gosh. And let me tell you, I will not let Mercury retrograde defeat me. I will not. I used to let the retrograde drag me for filth. Do you hear me? Had to change that back. Had to change all that. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna allow this. And let me show you, let me tell you how this works and how you can use this topic that we're talking about when it comes to the retrograde. Okay. This is, again, this retrograde is about transition. So I mentioned earlier, I'm a Virgo, so you know our roles with Mercury, right? And one thing I learned is when you, in the same way we're talking about flowing with, or you use the transition, you kind of look at, well, what's going on with me internally? Am I flowing or am I resisting? Does this feel true? Do I feel grounded within this, or does this feel uneasy? Do I feel unsettled? Right? If you are feeling uneasy or unsettled, I have felt that way with Mercury retrograde. And as I mentioned, you just drag me all over the place. Do you hear me? Drag me. And I used to be like, oh, the retrograde, it got me, right? But then at some point I was like, I'm tired and I'm not with this anymore. This does not, I'm not here for this. So in the same way, I was uneasy, but I was grounded in that. And that felt true to me in Mercury retrograde. Because I just thought that's the way it was supposed to be. Like, I'm just like, oh, I'm supposed to feel like this. Oh, no, terrible. But as I started to become more spiritually aware, become more conscious, and become more grounded in my truth, right? In my true self, more grounded in my soul self, it started to not feel, it didn't feel right anymore. So there was a point where I was like, okay, what happens if I start to just flow with the energy of Mercury, specifically when it's in retrograde, right? Because I'm just like, hold up, like if I'm a Virgo and that's supposed to be my planet, like, why don't you got my back, retrograde? Why don't you got my back? I was feeling some kind of way about that. Personally, I was feeling some kind of way, like, what's going on here? And then I had to change. I had to like, look, I had to think about that. Like, okay, let's see what's going on. Let's see how I can adjust this. And once I decided, like, okay, once I started to question, because first I had to acknowledge it, like, okay, I'm not feeling good here. And now I want to change that. So after acknowledgement, whether it's with Mercury retrograde, whether it's with summer solstice, which is the main focus here, and both things are happening right now, I acknowledge that something did not feel right. The next thing is, well, am I ready to take that new sense of acknowledgement and awareness and do something to change it? Which at that time I was. So a part of it is just saying, like, okay, I'm saying yes to just flowing with it, feeling uncomfortable in it, whatever that might be. It might be uncomfortable, which it was. Just like this transition for you right now, going into summer, it might feel uncomfortable. Let me scroll back and see if Centrally mentioned anything, because he was feeling uneasy about it. Let's see. I think there was a question before it got cut out. Let me just look real quick. There was a question. Okay. Can a person's diet throw off the vibration? It can. It can throw off your vibration, and it can slow down your process. And that's a topic I'll be talking about that more about, when it comes to food and hunger. I'm actually next week, the podcast that's going out next week, we'll be talking about hunger and the emotional links to that. And then going into July, I will be talking more about food, because July is my vegan anniversary. So I like to use that month to really highlight nutrition and fitness and how that relates to spiritual awareness. So stay tuned for that. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to my podcast, Fit Body, Fit Spirit, and you'll be able to check that out. So let's talk about, what do we have here? We are going back. We are going to have to take it back old school style. Conference phone calls, 3-way. Listen, what you know about those chat rooms, those hotlines? That's what the churches are doing. Y'all are funny. So when it comes to what you're ready to do about it, we talked about the acknowledgement aspect, and then the next stage of, well, how do I start to flow with it? How do I start to, change from resisting to flowing, or from flowing to resisting? So you might be flowing too much. You might need to stop flowing. Flowing isn't always a good thing. Sometimes you need to put a cap on it. Sometimes you're giving away too much. You're giving too much of your energy away. You're giving too much of your resources away. And sometimes it's time to go into self-preservation, or it's time to go into really looking at why you are giving so much. So don't always view, because again, being resistant towards it or flowing, it's not a good or bad thing. It's just about how that's showing up and if that feels true to you. So for those of you that are in that flowing state, does that feel true to you right now? And how is that showing up? Are you feeling drained? Are you feeling exhausted? Are you feeling tired all the time? Or are you at a point where you are feeling vibrant? You're feeling energized while you're in this state? Because those are signs where it's like, okay, if I might be doing too much too soon, and I might need to pull back a little bit. So hibernation is the state I'm in. Yes, and that's perfect. See, and here's the thing: hibernation isn't just for the wintertime. Some people might be. So I mentioned how for a lot of people, summer can be very physical and very active, and you're outside. But that's not. You can be transitioning into a time where that's active for everybody else, but that's not where you're at, because that's not your timeline. So you can be in a flowing state just for self and not flowing for everybody else. And that's fine. You can be in a mode of wanting to really go within, which you should always be going within, but there's a difference with going within to, as Sunisia mentioned here, kind of in that self-hibernation mode where you're really focusing. For me, that tends to be winter and fall and winter tend to be that for me, but sometimes it changes. And that's another thing to mention, right? So, and let me know if you have any questions on anything that we've covered so far. You can post your questions in the comments and I'll definitely respond to those. And if you're joining me after the internet cut out, welcome. We're talking about analysis of the soul self. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and to make sure you follow me on my business Facebook page, which is Wadjet. Okay, so in the same way that you can be in this state, you can be in a flowing state for years. It could be for a few months or for a few seasons, whatever. That might shift for you because as you change, the things that you need and the things that you require will change. And that has happened for me. Buddha says, yes, I had a month of that energy just within this last month. Yes. See, so that's just confirmation, right? It's okay. You know, it's not always, and it's about honoring that because you're different. And it's good that you are changing. You are ascending. You are expanding. You are growing. Because when I think of it, you know, I say ascension, but I don't want you to just think about just an up and down thing, or I'm becoming your higher self. It's all about going within, and I always talk about that. I use that term of ascension, or I'll use the term higher self because people can understand that, but that is something that has changed for me as well. It wasn't always, higher. When I think higher self, that used to be my truth of, okay, well, higher self is, that greater version of me. But over time, that started to not feel true anymore. And I had to honor that. So there comes a point, in the same way that we're talking about analysis of the soul in this transition, what might be showing up for you is, this used to be my truth, or this used to feel true to me. And now I have to challenge what I believed to be true for all these years. I have to challenge myself. I have to acknowledge that it's not about being right or wrong. It's just about, I have to acknowledge that my opinion or my thoughts are different now. Does that make sense? Let me know, because that's a big one. A lot of people get stuck there. You get stuck on believing, well, this is what, summertime is supposed to be when it says the summertime is when you're supposed to be the most active, and you're supposed to be out in the sun, and you're supposed to be doing whatever, right? Connecting with water in the summer. Maybe that was true to you, and that's what you believed, and that felt true to you 2 years ago. But something shifted within you. There was an inner transition that happened over the course of those 2 years. And now you have to face yourself, and you can't blame nobody else. And that's the other thing too. That is the other thing too when it comes to this analysis. You can't blame nobody. You can't say, oh, and I see, so okay. Truth be told, I'm one of those people where, how like in the comments of people will make a post, or there's like some people are arguing in the comments. I'm one of those people, I will just sit and quietly just read all the drama in the comments. I'm one of them people. And I will see people arguing on Facebook, on Instagram, or in the comments of YouTube on some, video about, whatever's going on in the cosmos, whatever's going on in astrology or something, whatever's going on in, or they might let's say let's say that the root chakra does not represent red or something. Let's say that's the topic, and people are like, no, it is red. The root chakra is red. And I will just go through the comments and skim through and just look at these debates. And I'm just laughing because a red root chakra might feel true to you. That might be your jam. But maybe a year later, you're like, you know what? The root chakra that was the color that I was associating with the root, but it no longer feels that way for me. And that's just your internal truth. Maybe now you identify with yellow. Maybe the root feels very yellow to you. That's the color that shows up for you. What will it take for you to acknowledge that the root chakra being red is no longer your truth? What will it take? What gets in the way? You let me know in the comments. What do you think, or what do you know would get in the way of you accepting that is no longer your truth and now you have a different view? Balance, yes. Definitely in hibernating mode here in Arizona. I'm usually wide awake in the fall, in fall, winter months, and lately all I can do is rest and go within. See, and I think that's a beautiful thing. I think that's a beautiful thing, because I think of the summer, as like, I was saying that it's like a sauna. So sometimes you just want to relax and just really stay in that mode of just being slow moving and really just being grounded and just honor that. Because, I mentioned earlier, I don't know if you were watching earlier, Andrea, but I was saying that the summer is, it's about a release. It's about, we're sweating because it's hotter. We talked about the heat and how that releases toxins, right? And so that could be what you're going through. So release doesn't always have to happen through being very active. Sometimes it's sitting and just releasing that way through, and just letting nature just extract through that temperature within itself. Yes, ever transforming, absolutely. Not Virgo. So think about what could get in the way of you acknowledging and you accepting what is true to you. What once was true is no longer your truth. What do you think would get in the way? Most of the time, it's the ego that gets in the way. Your ego gets in your way. Also, feeling like, especially if you've been talking about, oh, well, the root chakra is red, like that's what it is, and you've been talking about it and talking about that, and you've been all over your social media accounts talking about that, and you've been in all the Facebook groups talking about that, and you've done lectures on it or whatever. But then you're like, wait, I've been saying all this for years or for months, and now it's different. Now I'm going to say something different. People are going to think I'm a fraud, or people are going to think I'm a liar, or people are going to think I'm a flake. I don't want people to think that way about me. Societal beliefs and pressure. So that could be a thing, and I see that happen for people. But here's the thing, and this is why going through this analysis of the soul self is such a key point. You don't always have to do this during a transition, but this is typically when it shows up and why I felt led to share this as we are going into transition, because this is the perfect time to kind of assess and look at what's happening, because nature's changing. And when things are changing, you start to look at things different. Think about how we were talking about, I think Buddha mentioned like observing nature, right? Think about when you go outside, when it was springtime. Well, it's springtime now, right? But think about, despite all the damn drama that's going on within our society, think about how you pay attention to nature as the weather starts to change. Think about that. Do you pay attention to it more? Do you start to notice things differently? That shows up. You're just taking that same energy. It's just amplifying what you can do within. That's what we're doing. That's what's happening right now. You're using that same energy of nature, and it's an amplification to view your soul self. So if you're at a point where you are feeling those pressures, or you're feeling within, whether it's pressure from externally or from within, and the ego is like no, this is your truth, and this is what you've identified this way for this amount of time, and you're not going to change. It's like, no. If you honor that shift, and the goal is to always be in alignment with your true soul self, then it's going to be easier to let go. And over time, and all you have to do, even if you've been saying, okay, this has been, the root chakra has been read, and I've been talking about that for all these years, but this no longer is true to me. If you say that from a source of truth, then people will be like, oh, okay. And you can express that if you choose to. In the same way that earlier I mentioned, I used to believe, and I used to say all the time, and you can see this in older videos from wherever, any older videos from a few years ago, back when I was back in my melanin moonseed days, for those of you that remember when I was doing melanin moonseed, I would say higher self. But there's a difference. I say it now, but I don't identify higher self as, I use that term because people can other people can resonate with that. But for me, it's about inner self. That's where the truth is. It's not outside of you, because subconsciously higher is above you. But when I view the soul, I view from within. So that is a truth that has shifted for me over the years. And I just explained that just in the same way that I did it earlier. And if you don't resonate with that, that's fine. It's okay, because it's not about right or wrong, which we talked about earlier. It's about what feels true. If that doesn't feel true to you, that's okay. It's what feels true to me. I honor the truth in you, and I hope that you honor the truth in me. It's about, I honor where you are. I'm a really big advocate for that. And I feel like a lot of times, especially in the spiritual community, there is a lot of like shame of like, oh, well, you just don't know what, you just don't know what you're talking about. You haven't done your research, and some shit you're not going to find in a damn book. And a lot of times, sometimes you just need to get out of all these damn books and again, go within. If anything, in the podcast that I released this week on Tuesday, which was talking about health habits for spiritual growth, one of the first things that I shared, the first tip that I shared was to get off of social media. Like, get off of social media. And here's the thing, and I'm not talking about don't ever use it. You need to significantly reduce your time, distance yourself from it, because if everything you are trying to find is something about, oh, well, let me just Google this. Oh, let me just Google this. You're seeking truth of somebody else. Like, no, find it within yourself first. Connect with, get recalibrated to your inner self. Because too many times, and this is something I used to do this. I'm telling you, I be telling you because I've done it myself. I'm not saying, you know, I'll be sitting here telling y'all, and I tell you in the podcast too, the shit that I share is from my own experiences, or it's from experiences of clients or people that I've worked with over the years through observations. These are things that I've seen. These are things that I've experienced. These are things I have awareness of. Because I'm not better than I'm no better than anybody else. I'm just invested in trying to get my shit together. I'm invested in my spiritual growth. And that's something that was a process too. But there was a point, especially when you're like on a new spiritual journey or any type of new thing, right? So right now, fun fact, I am working on getting certified in to become a yoga instructor. I'm already certified as a personal trainer and a wellness coach. So I'm just adding that to the tool bag. But so there's new things I need to learn. So with this, you know, with these new things that I'm learning, the natural reaction is to go to Google and research everything and let me Google everything. I have not done that. If this would have been me a few years ago, that would be the first thing that I do. It's just Google everything. I'm not doing that. I'm first connecting with how does this feel for me right now? I'm not saying don't ever use Google, because I will definitely be up on Google or looking or researching books and purchasing certain books and reading. But that's not my primary source anymore. You feel that? Yes, I completely feel what you're saying. Hey, Amanda, welcome. Jason is saying, truth is we can all live in our own little worlds. Absolutely. Goodness knows, listen, with all this stuff that's been happening, with COVID, and now with what's been going on with the George Floyd, and now with all the stuff going on with just talking about how we view racism as a society, as a nation, and how those things are showing up, and all the bullshit news that they be talking about, the bullshit lies. Oh my gosh. Some of these headlines is like, do you know we know you're full of shit? Do you know that? Some of the headlines, like, I just don't get it. Like, the lies that they just don't care anymore. They just be like, well, we're just gonna put this out here anyway. Like, we know what's happening, people. Am I the only one that believes that? Like, I don't know. Self-work has made using Google give me a guilty feeling. Co-sign. I am co-signing that one, Buddha, because that is so true. It can feel like that when you get to a point where you have been doing that work. It can feel that way. But I encourage you to, like, always know that start with self, and then you can get confirmation through other sources. So, and I feel like there's a difference with just the energy of, like, how you go about doing certain research or looking externally for things, because there are a plethora of resources. I have a ton of books. I have, like, I bought 2 bookshelves a couple of months ago, and I realized I actually need a 3rd bookshelf because I have so many damn books. It's a problem. It's a real problem. And I think there's nothing wrong with having resources, virtual or physical. But there's a difference if I am solely depending on that, and I am defining myself by what I research. And I'm not using my soul self as the filter to determine if this feels true to me, if this feels right, if this resonates with me. Because I have books, I have tarot decks, I have lectures and videos and all types of things, and people that I follow I follow their work on YouTube or on Facebook or on Instagram or whatever. And which I would recommend one of my mentors, Aphrodite Stone. Check her out on YouTube. She's on Instagram and on Facebook. But definitely check her out, Aphrodite Stone. She's amazing. But here's the thing, it's like, no matter what somebody is saying, just like if you're looking at the news, it's like, okay, does this feel like, I was like, does this sound like bullshit? This sounds like bullshit to me. Or if what I'm listening in a lecture, it's like, okay, I was watching a YouTube a few days ago and I was like, okay, what they were saying, half of what they were saying did not resonate with me. There's somebody I respect. I was like, yeah, I respect them. And I like a lot of their work, but I was like, this particular topic, I'm not really feeling that. But that's okay. That doesn't mean I'm discrediting all of what they're doing. That doesn't mean that. That's just not where I'm at. That just does not feel true to me. And that's okay. That doesn't mean, well, nope, I'm not looking at your shit anymore. No. It's not that. It's just like, nope, that doesn't vibe with me. Anita says, I love books. Having zero knowledge of spirituality and esoteric topics, I needed books for some basic knowledge. Absolutely. So there's nothing wrong with having resources to get a foundation. Then through those things, filter that through your soul self. Filter that. Does this feel true to me? Do I feel grounded in this? And if you're still in a state of unknowing, because I was in that, anytime you're starting something new or learning something new, you're just like, okay, there's, I don't know enough to know if this feels true yet. That's okay. It is okay to not know enough to determine if it feels true to you yet. Keep learning. And then keep assessing. Keep going back to that analysis. Keep going back like, okay, well, I've read a few different viewpoints on an esoteric topic, and now I feel like, what, I like this point of view. This point of view resonates with me more so than this one. Trusting, absolutely, George Terry. Let me scroll back up. I've missed some comments here. Anita, I've been feeling uneasy about feeling excited in 2020 when everyone else thinks it is trash. I find it is the most interesting year ever. Yes, listen. I know. I was all about some 2020. Like, yes, bring on 2020. Things are about to change. Things are going to be lit. Things have been lit. Not in the way I was fully expecting, though. Not in the way that I was expecting. But for the most part, we've been throwing some curveballs on so many levels. And here's the thing, if you feel uneasy because other people think that you should feel that way, then that is something. It's like, well, then are you really acknowledging what feels true to you? Or is ego getting in the way of you still being excited about 2020? And I'm with it. I'm with the purge, burn it all down. I'm with this. This is a full global detoxification. A lot of things are coming to surface. And a lot of people are becoming more aware, because there's things that there's things you cannot unsee. Yep, I definitely take what resonates and leave the rest. Absolutely. Absolutely. So let me see. Hold on. I'm missing comments. Before spiritual awakening, all we have is external experiences to go off of. So that is where to look first. So that is okay. Yes, absolutely. I stopped following Aphrodite Stone. I felt she was too restricted with voodoo, such as being initiated in other practices. Okay. I definitely feel there's been a lot of, here's the thing, like with anybody that you follow, and this is one thing that I look at, a person's progression. If someone that you've been following has been talking about the same thing and nothing has actually changed or evolved from what they've been talking about over the years, then they're not growing. If there has been some form of evolution in their awareness, in their consciousness, in the topics, in their viewpoints, then that's something worth paying attention to. So I'm not sure how long ago you were following her, but hey, if she doesn't resonate with you, that's totally fine. But I personally, I love her work. Do I resonate with everything she says and does? No, but I'm definitely someone that will always recommend her work. Let me look back. Hijacked. Yes, not the purge. The towers. Yes, the towers are falling. Yes, they really are. And I'm here with it. I'm rolling with it. I'm flowing with it because this is happening for a reason. This is happening for a reason. And I do feel like people think like that 2020 is the real, like, oh, everything is supposed to change. Like, I feel like this is in preparation for the real shift, which is 2021. So this is just the preliminary round. That's all I'm saying. That's how I feel about it. I'm still excited about 2020 because of my self-awareness journey. Yes, but selective of who I share my feelings with. And that's another point too, right? So when it comes to where you're at within your journey and how that analysis of the soul self compares to your external environment, or it compares to the people around you, if they're not on that same wavelength, you don't always have to defend what feels true to you. You don't have to defend it. And sometimes it's not worth it. Whoever you're trying, it's just not worth expending that energy on someone who was not even on the same timeline as you. It's like pointless. It really is. Like, for what? They're not gonna, because they're only gonna find a way to continue to create conflict. And at the end of the day, if you're settled, if you are confident in your own truth, or if you're grounded in that, that's all that really matters. Other people will either be inspired by you, or they're going to be watching you. Whether they're going to be watching you, they're going to be lurking, and they might learn later. They might need to see an example. Some people need to see that proof, and you're that proof. And right now, you're just an external representation of their own resistance of self, because they're not at a point within their own version of this. So, I mentioned that that you can feel in the stages of analyzing the soul self. We talked about acknowledgement was the first part. So if you were not at a point where you were ready to acknowledge, then anybody that's a representation of that thing that you need to acknowledge, you're going to have resistance towards them. And that's just the way it is. So I'm excited that you're excited, Anita, because sometimes, and here's the thing, it's like, yes, there's a lot of crap that's going on in 2020. But that stuff is external stuff. And you have every right to feel excited about what's going on within your personal journey. This could be 2020. This could be Armageddon right now, which it kind of is. But this could be the most transformative spiritual experience you have had in your life. This could be your most successful and most lucrative time when it comes to your business or your career. So everything is great for you in that aspect. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't feel guilty about. I mean, yes, there's other things going on, but absolutely celebrate those things. And yeah, keep the haters at bay. And I use haters loosely, because sometimes it's not about, they're not necessarily hating. They just don't have the same awareness as you. They're just not, they don't have that same lens. Five energy. Yep. Shit's about to get physical. It absolutely is. It really is. If you knew my mom, easier said than done. Listen, child, if you knew my mom, and I will go, listen, me and my mom will go politely go back and forth if we need to. And then we just agree to disagree. I'll be like, you know what? Let's talk about this another time because I'm tired. I'm tired. I agree. I'm definitely being observed by people in my circle. Yeah. The same thing happened for me. So I mentioned that next month is my vegan anniversary. It'll be 8 years, and I'll talk more about that next month. And we'll be doing an annual fit and healthy challenge, and I'll talk about that more in that'll be happening in the Facebook group. So if you want to be a part of that, definitely join the Veg Fit Wellness community. But yeah, some people need to see, they're going to continue to resist, and they're going to continue to test you because they need to see an example. And they're secretly wanting to see an example, whether they realize it or not. Something to think about. Sanicia says, Ujo, what are some direct questions we can ask ourselves to receive answers or a sign when feeling uneasy? That is one thing I struggle with during my anxious and uneasy days. Okay, so some direct questions you can ask yourself to receive answers. The first question is, what feels true to me now? What feels true to me right now? So anytime you are feeling uncertain, find your truth. What feels untrue? What feels true to me right now? Another thing to ask, because sometimes you're in a point where you feel so uneasy or so anxious, or you're in such a state where you are avoiding the truth. Sometimes the last thing you're trying to hear is the truth. Then you want to turn your lens onto fear. What do I fear most right now? So those are two questions, two direct questions. What feels true to me right now? What do I fear most right now? The third one, I'll give you one more. What is the root of my discomfort? And let me add another word there. What is the root of my current discomfort? Let me make a prompt here. Of my current discomfort. And the reason why I added that current part in there is because a lot of times there's a lot of things that make you uncomfortable. So let me just post this. What is the root of my current discomfort? Write that down. Because I know sometimes, make sure you write it down or put it in a note somewhere. Because we're over an hour here. We're at an hour and 11 minutes. And I know you're not trying to scroll all the way back. So, or you might, hey. What is the root of my current discomfort? What feels true to me right now? Let me add that one. Write that down. And the last one, what do I fear most right now? The reason why the right now is so important is because that is the current state you're in. If you are in a current state of unease, then you want to address what's happening in your current state. So for example, if right now what you fear most is avoiding the truth, what you feel most is accepting the truth of your situation, not the truth of, what you believed 3 years ago, but no, the truth of your current situation. So for example, you might have a fear of being alone, but you're avoiding that fear. You don't want to deal with that. So it's like, okay, well, if you're avoiding that, then now you want to look at, then you want to go, so these can all come together, right? What do I fear most? We're using that example. You might fear being alone, but you don't want to deal with the truth of that right now. So you can go back to this question of what is the root of my current discomfort? So why does avoiding that truth feel uncomfortable for me? What is taking me to that point? And once that comes up for you, once you get a response there, then you can take it back to this one. What feels true to me right now? What feels true about this awareness? So you can use these three together. You can move them around depending on, you can start with this, you can start with the you can start with what feels true. You can start with either one of these. There's no specific sequence. Living Extraordinary says, what kind of change do you foresee in 2021? That is a great question. And I'm going to talk about that more. I'll cover it a little bit here, but I will be covering that in another video. But I feel that 2021 is really the true, the word that comes to mind is the true gateway of transition. I feel like 2020 was meant for us to believe like, oh, we're going to see things clear now. Well, we are seeing things clear now, but everything is going to, be reset. Everything is going to be like, this is going to be the best year where everything is going to be on the up and up with things. But no, things are resetting. We are seeing things clearly. Things are being cleared out. So when I talked about the purge, there is a purge happening. There is a new sight that is happening. And all of that, it's like 2020 right now is like the decluttering. You know how like this is like the spring cleaning, so to speak. Like one of the main, I would say a major decluttering of this decade. Right? Because then we're transitioning into a new decade. And that's where a main, what I see is a gateway. It's a gateway of transition. And for those that have an awareness of self, and I feel like this is why I'm led to start talking about these topics more publicly. These are things I've been talking about for years, but now I'm really expressing them more on public platforms. And I'll be doing that more, right? Because this is a time to have awareness of self. Because there's so much of external decluttering, there needs to be an internal decluttering, because moving into 2021, there's going to be a lot of all or nothing happening there. And which side of self are you going to be on? Are you going to be within the soul self? Or are you going to be without? Just in the physical body and just the shell of yourself? Which side are you going to be on? I feel like that's going to be the determining factor for 2021. Great question, by the way. Thank you, Living Extraordinary. What we got here? Everyone watching should already know to bring a pen and paper and be ready for homework. You know, you already know it, Miss Anita. Oh, that is so funny. That is the truth. Yes. Thank you. You are welcome. Thank you for your questions, Anicia. As the sirens go off in the background, right? What are the odds of that, right? One hell of a detox. Absolutely. It is one hell of a detox. That's what's happening. So in the same way, so we talked about, and I'm getting ready to wrap things up. In the same way we talked about the summer in itself, summer solstice being about heat, being about being out in nature, being about releasing of toxins because of the heat, because of sweat. We talked about that on the physical side. But then on a, when we take it more to a macro view of how this looks for this particular century, we are in this is another transition we are transitioning. Think of 2020. Right now we're in a transition into a new season. But 2020 is also, we are preparing for a transition to a new decade. I mean, there's a lot going on. When you look at the different layers, and this is why I always talk about honoring your timeline, because there's so many different layers, and we're working on different things. We're working in different layers. We're working on different timelines. And that's okay. There's no right or wrong, like I mentioned, but the truth comes from within the soul self. So going back to the question of what feels true to you right now. And that's why we're talking about this topic of analysis of the soul self. We talked about it, and we're doing a recap here. We talked about how this relates to the transition of nature and using and nature's transition being a great catalyst to amplify any internal shifts or transitions or changes that you need to make. This doesn't mean that you don't need to experience some type of change or transition at another point in the season. That's not what that means. All you're doing is, if a lot of times, like I talked about the lottery thing, and like you have all these different emotions and different experiences all jumbled up, and then one comes up to the top. It's like, okay, well, this one's coming up to the surface. That's the one that's coming up for you during this transition. So this is the optimal time to release, to acknowledge, to take action on whatever that thing is. We also talked about the different stages of analysis and how that's going to show up. First, looking at, does this feel true to you? Are you in a flow state, or are you in a state of resistance? And remember, there's no right or wrong. That's the first thing we talked about when it comes to analysis. And then, do you feel grounded in that flow state or in that resisting state, or do you feel uneasy in that grounding state or that flow state? And then we talked about what you need to do once you have an awareness of where you're at. Are you at a point where you're ready to acknowledge it? Are you at a point where you're ready to say yes to that next step? Or are you at a point where you're ready to take action and to allow that to reflect in your physical world? Release of toxins. Yes, absolutely. That's what's happening over the course of this season. I feel like the summer, what I pick up with the energy of summer is there is going to be a lot of release happening. So no matter what state that you are in, whether you're in flow state, or whether you are in a state of resistance, if you're feeling more you want to be more active, or if you want to be more in hibernation, which some of you already mentioned, that because you can be in either one. Just because it's summertime doesn't mean that that's your time to be active. Just because that's what everybody else is doing doesn't mean that that is your thing. So once you go through that analysis of the soul self, honor where you're at. And don't feel judgment, because analysis of the soul self is not about judgment. It's just about understanding. Honor where you're at. And if anybody makes you feel guilty for where you're at, then you need to remove them. You need to distance yourself from them, from those people. And you can just let them know, like, that's just not where I'm at right now. And, respect that. And if they don't respect that, if they keep wanting to keep bringing it up, then you need to remove those people from your life. I call it a demotion. Demote them people. They don't need to be. They do not need to be in your life. Okay. All right. So that concludes today's video, today's lecture. I hope that you all enjoyed it. This is the longest one I've done, I think, on my public platforms anyway. I wasn't even expecting to go this long. Thank you to everybody that has stayed until the end. And for those of you that are catching the replay, make sure you post #replay, and thank you for tuning in. I truly appreciate the time that you spend. I always like to honor people's time, and I definitely appreciate you investing your time in me and in this topic. And I hope that you found value out of it. I hope that you can take this. I hope this inspires you to share your truth with others, whether that's on your own platforms, if you speak publicly, whatever you do, or to friends or to whoever. Or you can always share this video with someone that you feel might resonate with this. And if you haven't done so already, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. This video will be on my YouTube as well as on my Facebook business page. And you can find both on there. Energy pay cut. I love that. Thank you, Ujo. That was awesome. Thank you, Living Extraordinary, for joining. Thank you, Amanda. So stay tuned for the next video. I don't know when it's going to be. I kind of do these intuitively whenever I feel led to do it. But it's, I'm trying to do something once a week or once every 2 weeks. But definitely stay tuned for future videos and subscribe to the Facebook. To YouTube, Ujo Wadjet, the Facebook business page. You can also follow me on Facebook, as well as I'm all on all the platforms, Instagram, Ujo Wadjet, and then my podcast Instagram, which is Fit Body, Fit Spirit. Follow my podcast. I think I have a thing up here for it. That's my podcast. You can find that on Apple, on Google, on Spotify, and the link is also it's on my website, which is ujowadjet.com. So I look forward to connecting with you all on all these different platforms. And if you're interested in any services, I do offer tarot readings, energy healings, and intuitive wellness coaching. And you can connect with me on my website, ujowadjet.com, and click on services. And if you're interested in working with me, click on the website and click on work with me. And yeah, if you want me to host an event or if you want to be on my podcast, you can connect with me there. All right. Those are all the closing notes. Enjoy your evening. Take time for yourself. Tomorrow is Juneteenth, and I'm all about that life. take advantage of that Juneteenth energy because it is very, very potent. And this is a great way to, Juneteenth is a great way to lead right into the summer solstice. So take advantage of it. And I might be doing some bonus tarot readings here on the page. So just letting y'all know, the people that stay until the end get the inside scoop. And I'll post an announcement if I do. All right. So I'll see you all on the next one.